Welcome to this video tutorial on how to make the Reversi or Othello app as a web application. My name is Professor J Patterson. In this lecture, what I'd like to do is build out some of the functionality that will give us the ability to do like a chat room, much like the application Slack, only through a web browser. This is going to be leveraging the work that we've done before in previous videos, and in particular, we're going to leverage the socket.io library that's going to allow our browser to connect to our application running a Node.js program. So here's the different steps that we have to go through in order to make that work. We're going to first do a little bit of housekeeping to clean up some of the code that some errors in the code that need to clean up from last time. Then what we want to do is we want to fix up the client side, so the browser. And what we want to do on the browser is we want to give the user the ability to enter a message that they want to send to all the other users that are playing the game. So we're going to need to make a place for a user to enter some text in the web page. Then we're going to need to add the JavaScript functionality so that when they click the button to send, the client or the browser will send the message that the user has typed in to the server, and the server will then have to receive it. And so the second bullet here, the server side, we're going to make sure that the data that was sent by the user is in good shape. And then if it is, we're going to rebroadcast the message out to all the other clients that are in the same room. Then we'll go back to the client and we will update the ability to receive that message back from the server so that when other people send messages, we can display them on the web page. So what this is going to look like is roughly our file system that looks like this. We've got our server.js application. We have lobby.html is where our code is running. The lobby.html references main.js and main.js, and lobby.html depend on socket.io. When a user types something into our form and hits send, we're going to send that message to our server. The server is going to receive it and then broadcast it back to everyone in the same room. Client will receive that result and then display it, just like a chat message in a window. All right, so let's take a look. Let's do that. And so to do that, let's go to Visual Studio Code, and let's take care of the housekeeping first. So what the housekeeping that I need to take care of is where I misspelled response. In the last video, we had a bug because I misspelled response by leaving out the first S. I noticed in my code I did that several places. So I'm going to load up server.js, and I'm just going to do a global replace. And I'm going to replace all responses with response globally. There we go. So that's the housekeeping I know about. Now let's work on the client side. Let's set up a place for our user to enter in the text message that they might want to send. So back to Visual Studio Code, and since this is client side, we're going to be working in lobby.html. Lobby.html needs a place where the user can type something in. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to put this at the top of the page, and I'm going to use the same code structure that we used in index.html for the user to enter in their name when they wanted to enter in their username, but we'll modify it a little bit, but that's where we're going to start. So I'm going to go over to index.html, and I'm going to grab the entire row here that has the contents of our button from our index.html page. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to do a little trick here with lobby. One thing that we haven't explored very much is that Bootstrap enables you to put rows nested within a column. So typically we understand a row as being 12 different grids columns, and then we can put content in them that spans different columns. Well, it turns out that Bootstrap allows you to then make another row within an individual column that has 12 little small breaks in it. We're going to leverage that just by duplicating our code. So in lobby.html now, I am going to, on top of the column, I am going to add a new row with the contents that I just copied from my previous index.html. Now I'm going to go back up and I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to come through, and first of all, we don't want it to be name. It's going to be the chat message. So we're just going to remove this prompt totally that says name. Then in the place where we enter in the message, it is still going to be text. It's still going to have form control style applied to it. I still don't want it to wrap. We're going to give it a different ID so that we can access it, and we'll call it the chat message. And the placeholder will be different, and what we're going to ask the user to do is enter your message here. For the time being, we'll let it wrap. I'll correct that in a second. For the text-to-speech reader, or for text-to-speech reader, what we'll do is we'll say, enter your message to send to the chat room. That's what our text-to-speech reader will read, and then there's no label that's describing it like there was before. We'll put that all in one line. And then on the submit button, we're still going to have it be a submit button. It's still button primary, it's still text no wrap. We're going to give it a different ID. We'll call it the chat button. And instead of calling go to lobby when someone clicks on it, we'll have to make a different message, and we'll call it send chat message, which we haven't implemented yet, but we'll have to in a moment. And then we'll change the text that it shows so that it says send. All right, we'll put that all in one line. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Let me save that. And what I would like to do is take a look at it. So to do that, I'm going to need to bring up a server. And let me do that for us here. I'm going to bring a window over. And I'm in the right location here. And first thing I'm going to do is I am going to launch that server. Okay, my firewall is running all right. All right, and now what I want to do is I want to open a browser so that I can look at that location. And do I already have a browser open? I do not. So let's open a new one. I don't think I do. Nope. And we'll point it at localhost 8080 index. That's my initial page. This is where I took my code from. I'll enter my lobby. And now you can see I've got a spot up here where I can enter my message. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with the way that looks. Let's go back to our code. What we've just done is made an input for messages. Now what we want to do is add the JavaScript so that when your user enters the message, it'll send it to the server. So that means that what we have to do is we have to implement this send chat message. We're on the client side, and so the place where the JavaScript for our client lives is in main.js, which is linked down here. So we'll go into main.js, and what we're going to do in main.js is we are going to implement the functionality for sending the chat message. So let me get ready to do that. We already have the ability to send our initial join room response. That happens automatically when our page is done loading. But what we're going to do is we're going to add a function that will respond to that button request. So our function is going to be called, let's see, what did we call it? Send chat message. All right. So we'll say function. Got to spell all our words right. Function send chat message. And we are going to get the we're not going to be past the content. We're going to grab it ourselves from the document object model. And so let's build a request that we're going to send to our server. Start with an empty object. And we're going to go ahead and say the room that we want to send this to is the chat room that we have described up above. So we're going to send it to the lobby initially. And the person that's sending it is going to be attached to this request. And we'll say that's going to be the username. That's the username we pulled off of the IRI at the top of our browser. Then we need to decide what the message is going to be that we want to send to everyone. And to get this, we're going to pull it out of our document object model. So we're going to use jQuery, and we're going to look for that element whose ID is chat message. Chat with capital M message. Wow, typo. All right, and so that's corresponding to our lobby.html. Here's our ID chat message. This is the input that contains the message that the user is going to type in. All right, so when they hit send, we're going to go and we're going to go there, and we're going to get the value that's stored in that message, and we're going to tack it into our request. We'll go ahead and put a console message in here, and I'm going to copy this one down here. So we'll just output when we're about to send it. We're going to say client log message, sending the, well, we have to make up what the message is, but we'll call it the send chat message command. And then we'll put the request out there as well. Then the last thing that we'll do is we'll actually execute the command, and it is going to be send chat message. That's the text we're going to send to the server, and we're going to give it the payload request. All right, and let's just make sure that we didn't have any typos. So what we're going to do for that is, because this is all client side, we're going to go back to our client, and we're going to open the inspect window to see if we get any console errors. That opened in a separate window for me, and let me bring that down here. All right, and we'll reload. And I don't see any errors in my console. So I don't think I have any typos. Haven't identified any yet. All right, so we made an input for our messages. When the user enters a message, we'll send it to the server. That's what happens when we hit this button. We send it to, oh, we didn't actually enter messages. Hello. We'll send it, and we should be able to see something like that in our, nope, that's not what I'm looking for. In our, in the dev tools, in the console, when we type in hello and we hit send, we'll see client log message, sending send chat message command with room lobby, username DJP3, and the message hello. That's great. So the message got sent, but our server is not prepared to receive it. And so that's what we need to do next. We need to check to make sure our data is good when our server receives that message. All right, so our server receives that message in server.js. Right now, the only message that we know how to receive is join room. So we're going to go ahead and take that code, everything from the comment at the start of join room, all the way down to the bottom here. So all the way down to this closing bracket. Actually, I'll start there. All the way up to the top. And we're going to copy that because it's going to have a very similar structure. So I'm going to copy that, take it down to the bottom, make some space, and then paste it. And then I'm going to come up here and we're going to edit it because we're no longer the join room command handler. Now what we're going to receive is we're going to be the send chat message command handler. And what we're expecting is the room, let's see, it's the room to, oops, it's the room to which the message should be sent. That's good. One sec. And then after that's the username, the name of the sender. Then the last thing that we expect to be passed is we expect the message to be passed. So the message to broadcast. Now after the server processes those things, it'll offer a response. And so the name of that response will be the, let's see, send chat message response. And we will either say that there was a success, and I don't know, we'll say the user that sent the message and the message that was sent. Or it will be a failure and a reason for a failure. Okay, so that's our comments about what we expect to have happen. So now we need to make that happen. So we'll change join room here. So when the socket receives the send chat message command, we'll receive the payload and we'll say the server received a command. The command it received was send chat message. So we'll output that on the log. We'll check to make sure that the data coming from the client is good. So we still want to make sure that the payload is not undefined and not null. The client did not send a payload, and we'll just update this so it doesn't say join room response, but send chat message response. We'll send that back with a failure to the socket. And we will say that the command failed as well, making sure we update the name of the command. All right, but if the payload is good, then we're going to go ahead and pull off the room and the username and the message, and we're going to check each of those in turn. So first we're going to check the room to make sure it's good, and if it's not good, we'll say client did not send a valid room to message. And then we'll send that response out, and we'll send that it failed. And then we'll log it to the command line. Chat message failed. All right, so that's if the room didn't work. If the username was no good, we'll say client did not send a valid username as a message source. All right, and so that's not a join room response, that's a send chat message response we're going to send back, and the send chat message command failed. All right, now the last thing we have to do here is we have to copy this code, and instead of testing for username, we're going to test the last thing that was sent in the payload, which is the message. So if the message is undefined or the message is null, then we'll say fail, client did not send a valid message. And so our send chat message response will be a fail, and we'll do that. All right. Now this is all handling the command for joining the room, but that's not what we're doing. We're going to be handling the command for broadcasting, and so we're going to have to do some different work here. And when we want to broadcast, what we're going to do is we're going to simply send a message back to all of the different participants. So let's make our response that we're going to send back to all the participants. Start with an empty object, and then we'll one by one add the components to it. So the result is a success because we managed to get all the data. And we will say the username that sent the message is username. And the room to which the message is going is going to be the room that we pulled off and we just checked. And the message response dot message equals the message that we pulled off the payload. And now we want to tell everyone in the room what the message is. So we're going to broadcast. So to broadcast to everyone in the room, we're going to use our IO connection. We'll say in the global namespace, again, not critical to understand that, but we do want to send it just to the clients that are in the particular room that we're talking to. So the lobby is the room we're talking to. And the message that we're going to send is a message back that says send chat message response. And the payload is going to be the response that we just made there. And the last thing we want to do is we just want to say, copy that, and we'll put a server log message in there. Say send chat message command succeeded. Succeeded. Not sure I'm spelling that right. And what the response was. All right, and so that should be enough. Let's check what we're connected to here. All right, so that's the end of the chat message payload. That's good. I feel like I'm missing some closing brackets here. Let me just check my closing brackets. Okay, that's all right. But why do I have that extra line there? All right, let's see. Okay, so I over-indented socket.on. So I think that should be back one additional, but I'm going to rely on the code formatter to help me do this correctly. So I'm going to select all and K and F, and if everything goes well, 135 should have gotten moved back a little bit. Let's see. Okay, there we go, great, 158. All right, so it looks like everything's lined up now. I have all the appropriate responses. Let me save that. All right. Now, what that means is that we have successfully checked to make sure the data is good, and we have broadcast the message to all the clients. The client is not ready to receive it yet, but we should see that the message gets broadcast back, and the client just won't do anything. So let's see if we can verify that. So let's go to our server. We changed server.js, so we're going to hit Control-C and restart our server so that we use the new code. All right, and with that, we're going to go to our client, and we'll go back one. And we will reload our client. Good, disconnected. We will join our chat room. We will connect, and then we will join room. We got a join room response. We join the lobby. Now we're going to send a test message. Send. Oh, we got some kind of error here. Let's see what happened. Oh, look at that. I misspelled response again. Never ending problem. Some sort of typo. All right, so I'm going to find all examples of response spelled wrong, and that's it. So just one apparently. Come back to my server, try and restart it. go back to my client, go back one, do a hard reload, join my lobby, see that I connected, I joined room, I got the successfully joined the room. I'll now send a test message, and great. And so send chat message, that got sent. Send chat message command succeeded, and here's the result back, but I didn't handle it. All right, so the last thing that we need to do then is we need to provide the ability for our client to receive that message. So for anything that our client does is going to be in main.js, and so that's where we want to work. And so we're going to come back here to main.js, and we're going to need to add a response. All right, and for that response, just like we have a join room response, we have a send chat message response. So I'm actually going to start with my join room response code. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it down below send chat message. So it's like we send the chat message here, and then we respond right here. It's not a join room response. Instead, it is a send chat message response. We get a payload. We make sure that the payload is well formed, and then we make sure that the result was not fail. And if it is, then we indicate why it failed. But if everything came in okay, then we'll create a new string where the class will be something different. We'll make the class the chat message, and we will say who gave the message, but you know what? I want to make it bold. So I'm going to add a little B tag before that, and I'm going to add a close B tag after we insert the name, and then a colon, and then we just want to put the message that the user sent, and then we want to do the close P tag, I think. All right, so we're constructing a little bit of HTML that we're going to insert in the document. It'll be the chat message, what the user's name is, and then the payload. All right, that looks okay to me. So that should be enough for the client to handle the response. And so I just saved that. Let me now go back to my browser. Let me go back. My client, I didn't change my server, so I don't need to restart that. I'm just going to restart my client. I'm going to go to DJP3. I'm going to enter my lobby, and I'm going to say hello. And there we go. We got the response back, and we handled it. What I'd like to do is just format that just a little bit. I'm a very poor graphic designer, but I can do a little bit in order to try and make those messages look a little better. So I'm going to go into lobby.html, and I'm going to use the classes that we have available to us. So the classes down here, the classes in main.js that I have is, I have a chat message class, and I have a join room response class. So let's put that up here. And let's go ahead and do join room response, style that a little bit. And chat message. And let's see, what do I want to do here? For my join room response, I want to indent them a little bit, and I want to make them, I want the background color to be the same, but I want the margin to be, let's see, 1 pixel, 1 pixel, 1 pixel, and then I want the right to be 10 pixels. So that will indent it a little bit. And should we make a different background color? Let's make a different background color. Let's make it just ever so slightly gray. So let's see what we can do there. Let's do a gray color. All right, great. And then for our chat message, let's leave our background color the same as it was before. Let's just make it, let's make this font just a little bit bigger. And should we give it a different text color? Let's give it a different text color. Again, this is not my forte, so let's see. Let's pick a color using our color picker that comes with Visual Studio. Let's make it kind of a dark purple. All right, let's save that. And this is on our lobby and our main.js, so we don't have to restart our server. But what I'd like to do is do this and demonstrate 2 different clients now. And let's reload. And let's reload, and we'll just say this is Don, and this is Patterson. Enter the lobby. You can see we've got two folks now here, and this person is going to say hello world, and that's going to get broadcast to both clients. And then this person on the right is going to say what's up. Great. And that looks pretty good. The margins are a little bit bigger than I'd like. Did I get that wrong? Chat message. Oh, I guess I want the chat message margins to be kind of small too, but not indented. All right. So let's make one more. All right, it's not working with me here. Let's see. There we go. Let's go back. Let's go forward. Enter our lobby. There we go. And so we've got all three browsers communicating with each other. And you can see it's working just like a text message client. You can see that the margins down here are smaller because it's not using the cached CSS. So there we go. That's what we did. We set up our chat message. We did our housekeeping, fixed our misspellings. We set up our client-side message sending. We handled it on our server side. We rebroadcast it, and then our client side is receiving it. And the result is we've got a really nice application that's sending messages to the server is broadcasting back, and it actually provides some functionality. A little bit of a chat client, not totally unlike Slack. So before we go, we want to make sure that this works on Heroku, not just on our local machine. So to do that, all we have to do is commit our changes to our GitHub repository and go check out the result on Heroku. So I'm going to bring up source tree, and I'm going to take the changes that we made during this video, and I'm going to stage them, and then I'm going to commit them. Onto my main branch, I'm going to say implemented chat after video 9. And I'm going to go ahead and immediately push those changes to GitHub. If all goes well, we'll see that completed successfully. Great. Look at my file status. You can see that my main line is blue here. My local branch of main and GitHub's main branch are at the same point. Now what I'm going to do is, knowing that Heroku has been notified of my changes, I'm going to go ahead and open up Heroku. Wait for it to load. I'm going to go to my application, and I'm going to open the app, and I hope it's been updated in time. Great, looks like it's okay. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to break off the tab, put it on the left here. And this is now live on the internet. You can see my URL is not localhost. My URL is actually a URL that anyone in the internet can access. We'll have alpha enter the lobby, and we'll have beta enter the lobby. And now you can see that we're communicating on the internet. And you could communicate with anyone who has this URL can open it up, and you can communicate with them just like any other chat client. So this is pretty exciting. All right, so that's making it work on Heroku. Thanks for that little appendix attention. So thanks for your attention. Hope you are able to reproduce this on your own. Make sure you have patience and learn how to debug as you go. Thank you.